What's up, guys? This is the CJ Murray Podcast, an exploration of music philosophy from a Christian perspective. These are stories and insights to encourage and challenge our views of music, God, and who we are. Thanks for listening, and now, today's conversation. Alyssa, thanks so much for being on this podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, man. So, one thing that you told me a little about a while ago, but just as an intro for our audience, walk me through your story, because I know that you wear many hats and you're serious about violin, but like, what did life look for you getting into violin and just kind of getting to the arts? Like, what's your story?
Yeah, so I grew up in an evangelist home. So my dad's an evangelist.
Okay.
And
I did not know that.
Okay, yeah, surprise. So I grew up traveling with my family on the road. We lived in a 54-foot RV growing up and did not live in a house until 2 weeks before my freshman year of college. So that was just my life, like always on the go. My mom has 2 degrees in music. So her undergrad is in piano, and then her master's is in arranging and composition. So yeah, so ever since I was little, I always played violin and piano. Okay. She started me on both when I was 3, me and my sister. And so that's kind of how I started. And I honestly hated it when I was little. I was not a fan. She would make us like set a timer every day and practice for 30 minutes all through elementary. And it was just like the worst part of my day. It was forced. I hated it. But I think looking back, I'm grateful that she had us do that, because I think especially into junior high is when I really started to begin to appreciate that. Because I think when you practice every day, you know, especially in junior high,
It's monotonous and
yeah. But then, you know, once you do that for so many years, you start seeing progress. And I think it was in junior high that I was like, I'm actually kind of enjoying this.
I'm decent.
Yeah, I can make a sound out of it. So I think that's when I first really started enjoying it. And then from there in high school, really obviously just upped my practice time and was able to meet so many people just on the road traveling. And I think the unique part also was that on the road, we had the opportunity to play every night in church or for like revival meetings. And so that got me very comfortable on stage. And I don't take that for granted looking back now, although
a lot of stage experience.
Yes. And I know that it doesn't exactly always correlate with classical music and like a revival service, but I think the stage part and the performance, like that has helped a lot in my classical.
Did you guys have like an electric that you had in the RV, or like what did you practice piano on? Yeah,
so I would usually practice with headphones in on our like electric keyboard in our RV, but then we'd also practice in the church auditoriums too. Okay. So cool. A little bit of both.
And violin though, like the whole RV was just kind of stuck.
Yeah. You know, that I would not practice in the RV.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Thankfully.
So where would you practice then?
So usually I would just go into the church, because we would park a trailer at the church. Okay. So with violin, I'd go into the church every day and practice. Okay. Yeah.
So you saw a wide variety of practice rooms.
Yes, okay. For sure.
Man. Okay. So then when it came to college, well, let me ask you this. When you wanted to study an instrument in college, why did you choose violin over piano?
Yeah. So I think it was probably early high school that I stopped taking piano lessons. It was probably junior high. I think I just naturally gravitated towards the sound of the violin more. Okay. I just enjoyed it more. I felt like there was more room to explore maybe on the violin, and I just felt like I had more of a voice in the instrument. So I really decided back in junior high school, I liked it better. So it was just when I went to college, it was just the obvious choice. Yeah.
Oh man. And were you wanting to get it all into like the double major?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. So
sticking with violin.
Actually, I started as a pre-law major in college. So I go to PCC, obviously, and I take from Dr. Bombard. And I remember I walked into my orchestra audition the first day of college. I was a pre-law major with a minor in music. So that was the connection. And he didn't even hear me play. And he was like, Alyssa, I've heard you in the past. Why are you not majoring in music? And so he called his wife on the phone, and like that first day of college I switched to a double major, and I'm so grateful I did. So man. Yeah.
So and I'm also trying to remember back to when we did talk about this historically.
Yeah.
But like long term, are you thinking stick with pre-law and pursue that route career-wise and then just have music? Or is it like pursue music and then have and then go with law? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's funny that you asked. If you would have asked me a couple years ago, I would have had a completely different answer. But I think since being in college, I think God has made his will so much more clear, at least for me. So now I think definitely where I feel like the Lord is leading is I'd love to do grad school for music.
Okay.
Definitely want to pursue a further education in music. And I've definitely flip-flopped back and forth because I enjoy like the academic challenge that the pre-law brings and the analytical side of pre-law. And I think it works both sides of the brain. Like I told you earlier, like the music is my more artsy, like creative side, and the pre-law is like my academic, logical side. So I enjoy the diversity where each day is different and it doesn't feel monotonous. But I definitely want to pursue a degree in music after.
Man. There's just a lot going on. Oh, man. Okay, so for you then, what would you say is like when, at this point in violin, when you're growing, like what are some challenges you feel you have to overcome just in growth or still putting in practice time or like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people, when they put their head down at night, there's like some demons that they face in terms of either like self-doubt or just like the sheer workload or like what are some of the things that you find yourself wrangling with with music? Yeah,
I would say this year more than ever, I think what I tend to struggle with most is I think the passion is there, but I think I tend to be a very like fly by the seat of my pants person. And so especially this year has just been busy, to say the least. Like that was just how I would describe it.
Least.
Yeah, just with the double major and just all the extracurricular at school. So I think scheduling out the practice time and actually going, I'd say the motivation is there, the passion is there, but I think finding a balance has been difficult. So I'd say to overwork that, I usually plan out my week at the beginning of the week. And I really just have to, I don't tend to be an organized person, but I force myself to. And so I think that is an area where I've learned to be disciplined when the discipline doesn't necessarily like not as natural for me. So I've had to work on that area. And I've grown a lot, I think, in school in that way. Yeah. So I would probably say that's the biggest thing.
And I would also think that there comes a point where you're disciplined because you have to, like, there's no option in life where it's like, oh yeah, there's this and I have to prep for, because if I don't prep for it, like that's not going to be good. And there's so many things on the plate. I mean, I think back on some of the busiest times of my life, and it's like you schedule because there's no choice. And there is a choice, of course.
Right.
You could choose for your life to fall apart.
True.
But yeah, man. And, okay. So here's another question, cause I see that, you like to take gigs on the side and you've done a lot of performance, of course, growing up and being in churches. So like, what's it like playing for weddings as opposed to playing for other types of venues or playing for churches or like classical performance? Like between all those different types of performances for you, how does it compare?
That's a good question. Man, I'm gonna have to think about that. Can you expound on like what performance?
So like you've performed classically, right?
Correct.
So like for you, what's the fulfillment difference between performing classically, like almost competitively, as opposed to playing for someone's wedding?
Okay. Yeah. Night and day. Absolutely. So I'd say playing for a wedding at this point, I enjoy it. But it definitely doesn't have that fulfillment behind it because you end up playing Pachelbel's canon, like every week for that. Or, so I enjoy it, and I think I enjoy weddings because of like the social aspect. And you get to know the bride and just like the family. I'd say classical performance, has just a completely different fulfillment, because you have the satisfaction of I worked hard and I put so many hours into this, and I really worked on my right hand articulation in this passage, or just the different things that correlate to that. So I think it's fulfilling in that I was disciplined and I worked hard, and just seeing the difference of where this started and where it's come from. So yeah, I'd say they're different, and I like them both for different reasons, but definitely different.
And how about like, playing a solo on your own as opposed to playing in an orchestra? Like from a violinist perspective, like how do those compare?
Yeah, I have always tended to enjoy solo and chamber playing over orchestral playing. I think with orchestra, it's really unique because you get to be part of a whole, and it's kind of, in a way, it's like teamwork. You give and take, and to work with the whole, to follow the concert master and all those things. So I enjoy orchestral playing. The beauty of chamber music and solo music is that you really have freedom to express your own voice. And recently here at PCC, we've had a chamber initiative that we've kind of started up, and is
that the quintet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, so we founded EALA Chamber Music my freshman year, and we've worked together since then, and really we usually meet twice a week and work together, and we've done that every semester. And so it's
a long running thing at this point, then.
Yes. And so I think the beauty of that is like you learn to work together as a team. And it's really cool, just the music that we've worked on. It really highlights each individual part. But then, obviously we just learn to work with the whole as well. Yeah, so I think chamber music is just unique in that way.
So it's like the best of both worlds.
Yes, I would say so.
Like you get the satisfaction of I'm a part of a whole and I'm in a group, but also there's definitely moments where I really feel like I'm highlighted.
Yes.
What's it like? Okay, so like dynamic wise, and not like musically, but when you're in a group that's that tight, like do you feel like there's like interrelational things you guys have to overcome where it's like if one person's down, it's like more difficult to compensate, or like what are some challenges behind that?
Absolutely.
Because like a quintet.
Yeah. Well, I would say just in my experience with the quintet, first of all, they are all awesome colleagues, and I think we work together well. But we definitely have had days where, some person might be having a difficult day or might be going through something personally, and that comes through in the playing. And I would say it definitely shows. And so I think when we can tell that someone might be going through something, you kind of just step in and do what you can to compensate for that and have grace. But I think open communication is necessary and good. And that's something that we've been very intentional with about in our quintet, where we have the freedom to talk and explain, and just I think that's a really cool thing with our group specifically. But yeah.
No, I've in groups that I've been a part of, even with like acting as opposed to like musical stuff, it's definitely something where whatever headspace people are in affects the craft and affects performance. And so, especially when I was with the Academy of Arts, and that was in a much more ministry type capacity, there is definitely an air of like, if a group isn't like, if someone's not right spiritually, it shows.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because so I traveled with those groups for a few years, and then years after the fact, I went to see a group that was from the same place, the Academy of Arts. And I remember watching the performance, and then just because I was friends with the team leaders, I was talking with them after the fact. And the team leaders were like, "Oh yeah, we're just having some problems with some people and some stuff is going on." And like when they said it, it like totally made sense because you could kind of tell on stage. And like, this isn't a slam again. I mean, they're high schoolers,
right?
And of course there's going to be high school drama. Like, is it high school
every time?
Is it high school without drama? And, yeah. So it's like, but there's a difference between when there's someone on stage and you know that in that moment there's only one thing on their mind, and it's just presenting and enjoying, and
Right.
especially when it's prepped well. You know, you can also tell when someone isn't entirely prepared.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I suppose if you've played since you're 3, you know, it's a little second nature. I don't know.
I mean,
I mean,
you still have to work for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah.
know. Both worlds.
yeah. Now you, I don't know how far back this was, but you had a shoulder injury.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, was there a story behind that, or like, is recovery hard? Is it something you're still recovering from, kind of?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So,
And if you don't want to go into,
no, that's okay. That's okay. No, yeah, I love talking about it. So, it was about a year ago. It was March 18. I still remember the day, and we had a series of concerts. It was when Heather Sorensen was here at school at PCC, and so she was here, and then I interned at First Baptist, and we had our big concert as well that weekend. And then, so 3 or 4 performances I was just prepping for, and just practicing hard.
Sure, yeah.
And I remember the day after that last performance, I woke up in the morning and had very little feeling in my left hand and arm. And it was just like that. It was overnight, and I woke up and it was off. And I'm such a get it done girl. I was like, surely it's nothing big.
Like, I'll work past it.
Yeah.
It's fine. I'm fine. We're fine.
Yeah. I was like, I'm sure I just slept on something wrong. So I went about my day. I had my lesson that day with my teacher as well. And I remember going into that lesson, I was working on Wieniawski Violin Concerto for my sophomore platform.
It means nothing to me, but
okay, yeah, go look it up. It's a great concerto.
It sounds complicated.
So I had, my platform was like in 1 month. It was like weeks away. And so I went to go play it in my lesson. And I remember I was midway through the piece, and Dr. Bombard just looked at me. He's like, Alyssa, he was like, stop playing. And he's like, what is going on? And I hadn't told him anything really much about my playing. And he could just tell. And so, he just, he encouraged me. He's like, take a day off playing. Let's come back tomorrow. And the day after, it was worse. And then by the weekend, I canceled a competition I was doing, sonata competition at UWF. And my whole hand was just tingling, and it was honestly turning purple at the fingertips, no circulation. So I finally went in to the doctor, and I got an MRI done and some x-rays. And what I was told was that they said it looks like that I had a bone in my neck that was permanently enlarged, and that was cutting into the nerve going down my arm. So that's what I was told.
It sounded like a nerve issue.
Yeah, exactly, which was kind of scary, because like, what's next, surgery? Or like, that was just really scary news for me, because music has been such a big part of my life. And I remember even that year was my New Year's resolution to practice. Like, it's always good to practice every day, but like to not even miss a day. And I had done that, and I remember that the next day, it was like the 525th day I had not practiced in a row.
Oh my
word. And it was just, honestly, it's like a part of your life is ripped out, and part of your heart is. And for many people, for me at least, I don't tend to be an emotional person. I kind of just tend to be black and white, roll with the punches. And so for me, music was a way for me to express my voice in a way that I couldn't, in a way that I really can't physically express myself. And so in that way, I feel like a whole part of my communication and expression was gone. And honestly, starting that week, I don't want to over dramatize it, but it really that started one of the darkest trials of my life, I would say. And so it was probably 6 or 7 months of just not playing at all, really just with tremendous pain. If I had something in church, I would get it out for that, but really just no practicing.
Did you decide against surgery? Did you just...
Yeah. So basically, I guess I should finish the story. So what I was told from there is, I started PT, physical therapy here in town, and I went for about a month, 2 months, and it really didn't do anything. And I was counseling at the Wilds Christian Camp this past summer, which was right after the injury. And I would drive up to Greenville once a week for PT. And really, by the end of the summer, there was no improvement or progress.
Mm.
And so, coming back to school, I had an appointment and at Andrews Institute, and they told me, like, hey, I really don't think this is going to get better. So I actually flew up to Johns Hopkins last November and met with a neurosurgeon to look at the possibility of surgery. And he told me, like, Alyssa, he said, I know you didn't fly up here to hear this, but he said this really, either you're going to have to live with pain the rest of your life or never play again. And I just remember that moment. I was with my mom and I held it in when we were in the office, but I, in a way it brings you back to square one. It's like, God, I know you're sovereign. I know you're in control, but why? And I don't think it's wrong to ask those why questions like Job did. And I can't remember what chapter it was. But I definitely was at square one where it's like, God, I trust you. I know that you're sovereign, but I don't know why you would bring this into my life. And I really battled with that. And they moved my sophomore platform back. I still hadn't taken that. And it was January 1st of this year. And I remember I was just talking with my mom about it. And I was like, I know this is what God has called me to do. And I know he's given me an ability to do it. So I decided starting January 1, I would practice 2 to 3 hours every day to prep my platform. I hope my teacher isn't listening to this because my platform was like in 17 days and I hadn't practiced like almost at all for it. And I had 17 days to completely prepare. And it was January 1. And in my mind, I was like, God, you've called me to do this. So I'm committing.
Were you practicing through pain?
I had practiced some through pain starting in the fall semester.
Okay.
So I was playing on and off, but yeah, it was definitely very limited and not consistent. So anyway, so I did it. I started that first day, January 1, and put in 2 to 3 hours. And, many days I would just break up the practice session and practice like 10 minutes at a time, come back and practice 15 minutes. And it got worse for a while, but CJ, I don't understand it, but day by day, after a while, it got better and better. And praise the Lord, it is almost completely gone away.
It's crazy.
And I don't understand that. But in a way, it's almost like the Lord was like, Alyssa, just like trust me. Like,
just keep going.
It was like the step of faith that I just had to take. And it flares up some, but for the most part, it's gone away. And I don't understand it from a medical side at all.
Are you looking at getting another MRI at some point in the future just to see?
I mean, not as of now. I mean, if I'm not having pain.
Like, what's the point?
Yeah. And they told me I'm not damaging nerves by playing. It was just more of a painful thing.
Okay.
So, yeah, as of now, it really has mostly gone away. Okay. And I don't understand that, but I'm not complaining.
That's crazy. That's definitely one of those God thing stories.
Yeah.
Man. Well, and it just takes, like, courage. And, I mean, it does help to know medically that it's not going to damage anything further. Right. I think, like, take carpal tunnel.
Right.
Like, that's something where if you play through that, it's going to turn into a vicious cycle that never ends.
Yeah.
But, man.
Yeah.
Well, praise God.
Praise the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a wild time.
Man. Well, and plus, I just love the honesty and transparency it requires when you're going through it with God, where it's like, hold up, I don't get this. I don't understand why, like, why now? Why am I, like, midway through, like, the most growing period of my life musically? And then, I can't imagine, you said day 525, practicing every day.
Yeah.
That alone, aside from not being able to practice for such a long period after that, but just like, there's almost a certain pride I would imagine that God would strip from that.
Yeah,
absolutely. Cause like, there's a lot of people that are really good and don't, like, even some of the best people don't achieve something like that. And then for God to be like, hey, this isn't the thing that makes you a great violinist. This isn't the thing that you're going to be able to hold up and say, oh yeah, I did this. Even though it already was an achievement, but it's still like, no, this isn't, like you said, going back to square one, what really matters.
Right.
What really matters is that you've given me something, God, and this is a season, you couldn't play for like 6 months or whatever. And then coming back with faith to say, God, no, you've called me to this. I'm going to do this. And then taking it from there. What was, like, if you don't mind me asking, what was, like, your parents' perspective going through that season?
Yeah, honestly, my parents were. Me and my mom are very close, as you probably could tell. They were very supportive. And I think from their end, they really wanted to find out from the medical side. I think just to support. And in our minds, my dad's like, this could be a change of direction. Maybe this is why the Lord had me double major. And so I did have those things going through my mind.
sure.
Like, maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to do. So they just encouraged me to obviously stay faithful in God's word. And I always appreciate just the influence that they've had on me. They love the Lord, and that has rubbed off on me so much. But stay faithful and just like getting to know who my God is. And that really was an encouragement to me. And I think oftentimes when we have something in our lives that reaches that level where it almost becomes a God in your life, that's going to be the first thing to go. And in my life, that was music. And it was, looking back, it left such a hole in my life. And so much of that was not filled with God. And I think that was probably, that's looking back, like the Lord definitely has changed my priorities and my perspective. And I appreciate that. Like, I wouldn't trade the trial for anything looking back now, although it was hard to say in the moment. But I'm thankful that he really used that to reprioritize my steps.
And what's really wild is like past that, when it first happened, you thought in your mind, wow, this could be a pivot towards law. And then, like that could be it. But I think in the end, it turned out to be a confirmation because when you said, no, I'm going forward, and God kept the train going, then suddenly it's like, wow, no, like this is something that God wants me to commit to, and I'm going to commit to it.
Definitely.
That's really neat. And it's also a good insight just to like, it's easy for us to make big picture speculations when things happen and just assume things about the big picture and step away from what God's called us to in the present moment. Like you mentioned Job, and I think Job is a really good example of, when literally everything was taken from him, he still had the present mindedness to fall down and say, God gives, God takes away, blessed be the name of the Lord.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think a lot of us would be hard pressed to ask ourselves, like, how would we respond? If so much was taken away from us, what would be our gut reaction? And like, I was talking with someone about this just again on Job, is like, when you reach a breaking point, like there's some Christians, and this is getting gray, but like Christians that walk away from the faith because like they broke, they just couldn't take whatever. And it's like, I think you could still argue that Job broke, it's just how he chose to do it. Like he was very much so at the end of himself. There wasn't any much of himself left. It's just, I mean, of course your friends can turn on you. Right. And like, true. Just when you think it can't get any worse. But, no, that's just, that's an awesome testimony. I think I'd still be curious to know an MRI, lest you like wake up with like
something feels
your
off
arm, yeah, but wow. And plus, a lot of times we forget or don't have the present mindedness to remember like God created the whole thing. Yeah. God's the one that made our bodies to work a certain way. And, praise the Lord, we have the technology to diagnose things and get certain scans. Yeah. I don't know. I really want to come back to your story, but when I was a senior in college, I went for a run one day because I loved to run, and I woke up the next morning in I woke up in the middle of the night in excruciating pain. And I guess me being me, I had the stupidity to never go in for it. I just limped for a week. I was like, well, that's weird. and I limped for a weekend, and my older brother was like, oh yeah, like maybe you pulled something and it's fine. And yeah, it like haunted me. Like it kind of still haunts me.
Did you ever get it checked out?
Well, believe it or not, I actually have an MRI this Tuesday.
No way.
So yeah. So like, that's why this is very present on my mind.
Oh my goodness.
I actually, oh man, I've had, if you don't mind me pivoting.
Yeah, no, that's okay, please.
Okay, so, because I've never publicly talked about this. In fact, I don't know if I should, because like I don't know if like we're all persecuted. I'm giving information to people to torture me. But I've told some friends about this. So I actually have a condition in my leg called lymphangiomatosis,
Wow.
and so it's treated in the medical world. It's treated similar to cancer, though it's not. It's benign. Essentially, it's a condition in the lymphatic tissue where if you take tissue away, the body like replaces it multiplied. It gets inflamed super easily. And so,
Wow.
yeah. And so when I was a kid, in early elementary school, I kind of similar to you, but different. Yeah. One day, like my leg really hurt. And I was like, yeah, like, hey, mom, dad, my leg really hurts. And they're like, okay. And then the next day, it like really hurt. We're like, okay, like take a lot of ibuprofen, take some Tylenol, whatever. My mom's a nurse, so she's
She
aware.
knows.
Yeah, my mom knows. And then the third day, I just could not walk, period. And so my dad strapped me to a snowboard and put me in the trunk. And then when the doctors went to move my leg back on the snowboard because it had slipped off, it was like the most painful thing I'd experienced.
Oh my goodness.
And so I had an infection, and then that's where they were really realized I had this condition. And so it's really in, the condition is in, it mainly pops up in teens going through their growth spurt. And then usually once you get past the growth spurt and past 18, 19, there's usually not a lot of problems with it. But yeah, it's really rare. And basically in every single medical document ever, I have to put the medical condition because it's popped up in other things too.
Okay.
I had a surgery some years later, and my mom said, okay, doctor, if you come across the lymph tissue, don't touch it. Don't mess with it. Don't do anything. The doctor's like, well, if I don't, something really bad could happen. My mom's like, I don't care. You don't mess with the tissue. I mean, just for context, have you heard of the man historically called the Elephant Man?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, it's a grotesque Google if you're up for it, but it's this guy's head's like literally 3 times the size of a normal head.
Wow.
Yeah, because back in the day they didn't know that with the condition, if you remove tissue, that something really bad would happen. So they kept thinking, oh, if we just take it away, like this should be good, and it had the complete reverse effect.
Oh.
So that's
Wow.
what he has.
And that's what you have?
Yeah. Yep. So
Okay.
so when everything happened with my knee, and I was going through physical therapy, it was we can do anything but mess with the tissue. And then yeah, I was seeing the doctor for something else actually. I was actually wanting to donate some plasma. I'm sorry if this is a huge tangent off of you.
No, please.
But,
I'm loving this.
But yeah, I went to donate some plasma, and I like in any medical system, I have to let them know.
Yeah.
And they like didn't understand it, so they turned me away, and they said, "We'll let you donate as long as you can get written consent from a primary doctor as well as a hematologist." And so I've never had like a full panel. I went to my primary doctor, and she says, "Have you ever had a full panel of blood work done?" I'm like, no. So I've been going through the process, and then I was telling her about my knee, and she was like, "Yep, you're getting an MRI." I was scared because of the bill.
Oh,
You know, like MRIs are
they're
expensive.
So expensive.
I know, and so I've always put it off. And so yeah, the past few weeks I've been going through the blood work, and no, the MRI is
Monday.
it just dawned on me that no, I'm sorry, I'm confused in my head. My MRI is my MRI. I don't know. The hematologist is next week, and
Got
then
it.
the
Okay.
MRI is in the same vein. So I'm really curious.
Wow.
In the next month to see
Yeah.
where like everything's at.
Wow. So are you still in pain when you walk then?
No,
what is
so
that
like
like?
so like as far as the condition itself, I don't know on a public podcast how much to go into.
Yeah.
But essentially, this leg, the tissue is almost twice as thick as my right leg. Yeah. So
Wow.
like like you can kind of pinch your skin
Right.
on your arm. Yeah, you can't do that with this leg just because of the tissue.
Wow.
I know it's kind of weird. And so like as far as the leg's concerned, there's no pain. The knee, the reason why we really want to look into it is like, when you're young, oh yeah, like a knee pain or whatever. But like, one of my parents has had a knee replacement, and it's like, if I'm 60 and I need a knee replacement, well, what if we can't?
Right.
Because you just can't,
Sure.
you can't mess with it.
Right.
So yeah, but anyways, the reason I thought of all this, the reason why I went to, because there was a spiritual point to this, was when everything was first happening with my knee and even going through therapy. And I'm sure you like felt the same way, but like, I loved to run. Like, and when it comes to exercise, to me, like running's always been my go-to.
Yeah.
And so when something happens like so stupid, like you just like out of nowhere, out of the blue, you wake up and it hurts. And to go through therapy, and something that, you know, my wife, Megan, has said often is that a healthy person wants 1,000 things, but a sick person wants one thing.
That's true.
And so like, you know, I'm in therapy and I'm like, all I want to do is run. Like, that's all I'm asking in life is just to have this avenue of exercise. And, you know, for you, it's like, all I want to do is play an instrument. You know, it's like, I'm not asking for a whole lot. And, you know, you have the question why, and like in the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge game changer. But physical therapy was really helpful, and like they had some insights where I don't think it was related to the condition. The knee.
Okay.
Well, to be honest with you, my primary doctor is convinced that it's like a meniscal tear or something. That's why we're getting the MRI.
Okay.
I don't even know. I haven't Googled a meniscal tear yet.
So you could have more than one condition.
I don't
thing
know.
Going on. Okay.
I don't know.
You never know.
To be honest, I haven't Googled it yet because I don't really I haven't brought myself to the point yet. Yeah, like describe for me, you know, what this is or does, but yeah, all that to say, it's crazy just with things that come up in life, and like things can always be worse. Things can, like, God knows what we need at a certain time,
right?
And like especially when He knows what to break us with.
Sure.
And I'll like on the episode before this, you know, we were talking about like usually when life is really good, part of me is like, okay, like no pride,
don't jinx it.
don't jinx it. Like, okay, we're in a good rhythm, but no, man, I'm trying to think of a way to get back to you. So like long term, what to you is like an ideal goal with music? Like when it comes to performing, are you thinking like to be on stage and earn money like that? I know that some people make a lot of money just through gigs. Are you thinking just being versatile, or is there like a milestone that 20 years down the road would be so neat to reach?
You know, well, I don't think I have a milestone, like one big thing I want to accomplish. I know this, I don't want to teach. I know
fair.
A lot of people go
totally
into
fair.
Music thinking that they're going to teach, and I might be naive. I know I'm blonde, but I can do smart things. But you know, I don't want to teach. I've done that for a while in college. I have my own studio, and I enjoy it, but it's not a passion, is what I would say.
Sure.
So I would say my goal would be to go to grad school, get a degree, and ultimately I'd love to play with an orchestra and or with a chamber group. So yeah, I'd love to just play with a symphony in a major city somewhere. And obviously just gig on the weekends as I can. So I enjoy the performance of music more than I do the teaching side, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you thought about like getting it, like as far as violin goes, like learning the recording side of things at some point? I mean, I know this is coming from me.
Yeah.
But like, you know, if you're wanting to go into that professionally, like getting into some of those technical aspects?
Yeah. You know, well, I would say I've always heard a lot and thought a lot about recording as a musician in high school, but it wasn't even until PCC, until I met you, that I was able to record in a studio. And I even just here in school, I've really enjoyed that. So it's definitely piqued my interest, but I don't know. I mean, I'd be open to it, but I've not thought about that a lot. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting just because with the age that we live in, I think the number one, I was talking with Mark Zacharias earlier about AI and just, you know, like how that's kind of affecting things.
Yeah.
But I think one thing's for sure that nothing will really beat a live a live orchestra.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's
not.
just something about a bunch of people coming together, very skilled too. I mean, like if you were to add, can you imagine adding together the collective amount of hours practice between everybody?
No way.
Like it would be
No way.
It would be kind of sad. I mean, it'd be so many hours. But also we live in like a digital age where it's like our younger generation, I think on one hand, most of us live on the internet, but also I think that with AI, there's also still a craving for like the live and the organic, because we know, like we know the real from the not right now, we do at least, but yeah. So like all that to say, just being able to like being able to record and put it out there as just another means of portfolio, even. Yeah. Because it's a digital portfolio, but also if you're good enough, it's like, oh my word, this is a quote that I heard, that your network is your net worth. Right. And so it's like, I think that as long as you know a lot of people,
that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Most jobs, I think the statistic is 50% of jobs are filled before it ever reaches like job opening on the internet, because it's all about who you know. Yeah. And they never hire the most qualified. This is something my teachers hammered into me. That whether that companies or groups, they never hire the most qualified. They always hire the person they can trust the most.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Which may be the most qualified person, but it doesn't start with that. So, wow. Yeah. Okay. So like, just as wrapping up the episode, what encouragement would you give to either one of two people or both, to young people starting out in an instrument that just like looking at the mountain from the very bottom, as well as the people really going through a trial? I know that your testimony already spoke to it, but just from you, mostly on the other end, like what those groups of people, like, what would you say?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the people that are just starting on an instrument, I'd say keep going, and don't get discouraged if the passion leaves or the discipline, if you struggle with that. I'd say work through those things and just learn to be disciplined, and keep going in that way. And then if you're going through a trial, just continue to trust the Lord and live daily. I think for me, sorry guys, my voice is kind of giving out.
It's okay.
But I think for me, the Lord really used that time to shape my life and my experience and even my career. And sometimes the Lord lays us down to rest. And I'm a busy, active person. I don't like to rest. But that was exactly what I needed. So I'd say just trust the direction the Lord is leading you in, and live each day to the fullest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Alyssa, thanks so much for coming on this podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It was a real blessing. And thanks, you guys. Thanks. You guys know what I mean. Thanks for listening. And I hope you have a great day. I'll see you on the next episode. Bye.